Alright, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Kingdom Battle Across Time Collection Maximal Skywarp. And yeah, this is kind of an interesting figure. This is the one that came packaged with the Earth mode Sideswipe in that Amazon exclusive 2-pack. And yeah, it's a reuse of the Air mold to make what some people will know as Skywarp and what other people will know as Silverbolt. Where the name from this figure really comes from. So if you're unfamiliar with Beast Wars Silverbolt, the other one, there's two characters in the original Beast Wars toy line that are named Silverbolt. There's the one that was in the show that is the more famous one, which is the Fuser, that is a that transforms into a combination of a wolf and a hawk, I guess, some kind of bird. And then there is the second Silverbolt in the Beast Wars toy line that is part of the Maximal Combiner Magnaboss named Silverbolt that transforms into, you guessed it, a bald eagle. I'm guessing that the reason that they didn't want to call it Silverbolt, which is the American name for the toy, is because at some point they planned to do, Beast Wars Silverbolt the Fusor, so they didn't want to have two maximal Silverbolts, I guess. So they elected to use the Japanese name for the figure, which is Skywarp, because in the Beast Wars Neo cartoon, though in the original, American Beast Wars cartoon, there was no, or I mean, American, Canadian. Canada's in North America, whatever. The English language version of the cartoon, there is no character that is based off this mold, or not this mold, but the mold that this one is based off of. But in the Transformers Japanese side, there are two exclusive Japanese Beast Wars cartoons: Beast Wars Neo and Beast Wars the Second. And in Beast Wars the Second, there is a character that uses that design, and that character is named Skywarp. So instead of Ironhide the elephant, Prowl the lion, and Silverbolt the eagle, it's Santon the elephant, Lio Jr. the lion, and Skywarp the bald eagle. So they've elected to use Skywarp. Obviously, we have another Skywarp, but that's Skywarp is a Decepticon, whereas they were probably figuring it was a little bit too close to have two different Maximals both named Silverbolt, which I guess makes sense. Either way, that's neither here nor there. Call the figure whatever you want. To me, it doesn't really, I don't have a huge connection to either of the characters, so it doesn't really matter. I guess I'll probably go with Skywarp just because that's what it's officially called. But yeah, this is a reuse of the Air mold, which it works pretty well as this character. I think it makes a fairly good bald eagle mode. I mean, there's the obvious the same issues with that figure, whereas they can't have it be quite as slick as an actual bird, just because it has to transform, and they want to have it have a wingspan, so it can't do the bird stance where it's all crouched up. I mean, it can do it, but that this is not what a bird looks like when it's folding its wings up. It's not certainly a rectangle, so whatever, it works. It's got a good amount of posability in the wings here. There's a joint right here. There's a double joint right here, and you want to be a bit careful with it because this peg right here, there's a groove that it sits in, so you can't fold it the other way here. I mean, you can, but you kind of have to force it past that, and it doesn't feel great, so I would not. But there is a double joint there, so you can, get extra bend in the wing, and then there's a joint outside of the double joint on the wing that moves there, and then there's this joint for the outward feathers. And then I guess for the tail feathers, you could also unpeg them and fold them up. I don't know if that really serves too much of a purpose, but you can do it. The head is on a rotation joint right here. It can tilt down like that, though the more you tilt down, you're kind of seeing this ugly, half painted section where the spray of the white paint of the rest of the head didn't quite get to this part because they didn't prioritize painting the back of the head, which makes sense. Then the feet are on ball joints, and then you can kind of, tilt these sections up to kind of make him a little bit more perched. It has sort of a soft locking joint, so you kind of, if you want it to sit anywhere between here and here, you have to get it to sit in between that joint, which can be kind of tricky, but is definitely possible. And I think that looks a little bit better than having it down, fully with these pieces extended down, because then it barely it barely stands up. But yeah, oh, and then the beak can open and close. It's kind of tricky to get to, but can do that. And yeah, it works pretty well as an eagle, aside from, the just issues with this not looking totally like as aerodynamic as an actual bird. The head sculpt was really more sculpted to be hawk proportions, which, you know, it works well enough. They've done a neat trick here where they've made the eyes a little bit smaller compared to air razors to kind of like give the illusion that it's like a bigger bird head, which I guess works relatively well. I think it looks a little bit strange to have these eyes and these kind of like clearly sculpted open eye sockets around it, but it is a nice bit of detail there with the pupil and everything. So that works pretty well. Really, the one thing that I would change about this mode to make it look more like a bald eagle is I wish that they either painted or cast this section in white, because I feel like the bald eagle fairly iconically has like white tail feathers. And I mean, I guess that would be also the thing that I would choose to cut from the paint budget if it was really, you know, down to that. But, you know, they could have like probably because of like the way that, you know, it fit on whatever sprue or whatever. It wasn't, they couldn't cast this piece in white, but it's not like there isn't white paint anywhere else on the figure, because this is all painted white and the head is all painted white. So it would have been nice if at least this side of this piece was painted white to give him the tail feathers, but that's not the end of the world. He does have painted toenails here, which is nice. Comes with the exact same weapons as Airazor did, the little, you know, wrist mounted rockets, and they store in the same way, just down here on the what will become the robot mode thighs. And it's, you know, that's fairly good storage, I'd say, because it's kind of down and out of the way. Again, it would have been nice if this piece was white, because then that would blend in these pieces in a little bit better, since these are white. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, here he is with Airazor, just so you can see what they look like together. It's the exact same mold. The only difference in the actual sculpting is the robot mode head. Otherwise, it's, you know, the same figure. I really like the brown that they use. It's like I don't know if it's going to pick up on camera, but it's got a slight sort of maroony tinge to it that makes it feel like this really, really deep sort of chocolatey brown. And I think it works really nicely. I don't know, you know, as pretty as the color brown can get, I guess. But and then for what it's worth, here he is with Sideswipe, which is the figure that he's packed with. Cool. I mean, that's what the bald eagle looks like next to the Lamborghini. Whatever, they came in the box together, and who knows why, because probably if they didn't, then people would just buy this, and many fewer people would buy this figure. Whatever. Originally I wasn't thrilled about this figure, or about, you know, having to buy it to get Sideswipe, but I did end up liking it. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to the bald eagle mode for transformations. It's of course the exact same way as Airazor's is. You can leave these on or take them off. I'm just going to leave them on for simplicity's sake. But the tail feathers here, you want to fold up. They kind of peg into the back here. And then the legs, you want to move them out like this, because the inner thighs peg into what will be like the waist piece. And then you can rotate them down like that. Straighten out the legs at this joint. Rotate the whole bottom, the whole lower leg down. The instructions do have you rotating the feet around just like Airazor, and we'll get to the options there in robot mode. I mean, you can guess them; it's either this or this, but but yeah, you do that with both legs. Just rotate them down, straighten it out, and then rotate these bits around. Then you want to rotate the whole waist around, at which point you can peg this back in. It really just unpegs for clearance. You can leave it pegged in for both modes. The arms fold out to the side here. You straighten out the forearm, bring it down, and then bring the shoulder pad up, just like that. And then this whole section here, you want to take this back panel and kind of unpeg it, and then there's like double hinges right here and right here, which you have to try to move in unison so you're not like stressing out the pieces. And then when you're about halfway, then you can rotate the piece with the eagle head around and rotate out the robot mode head. And then you can move it the rest of the way on those little armatures, and then peg this piece back in. And then for the wings, to put them in their fully compressed mode, you want to bring them forward on this joint, and then on the lower part of the double joint here, or the upper part of the double joint rather, you fold it out like that, and then on the lower section, you fold it in so that this tab that I was talking about earlier now goes into that slot right there, just like that. And then this whole section here on the wing, you can rotate out like that, which creates this little slot right here that you can fit the rest of the feathers in. And that's about the most compressed that you can get the wings, unless you're like really folding them all the way back. but then, like I said before, you'd have to rotate this peg over here. And, you know, even the design for, for the toy had these huge wings that went way out to the side, and Skywarp in Beast Wars the Second had pretty big wings on his back either. So I don't know why you'd want to totally conceal the wings, but that is an option. You just have to be careful with that joint, pretty much. And yeah, there he is. Well, you can take the weapons here and move them off of his thighs and put them onto his forearms here, or have him hold them in his hands, whichever you prefer. But yeah, there he pretty much is in his default robot mode, and yeah, he looks pretty good. The one piece that's worth talking about here that's sort of strange, but I guess it makes sense, is he has a bit of kind of technically cheating with his head sculpt here, because you can see the head sculpt has a sculpted eagle head on it. The original toy, like, it didn't have an eagle head on the head. It was like a separate head, and then the eagle head was like folded over it. But in the Beast Wars the Second cartoon, this was basically the design that they went with, which is a little bit strange because, like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's cheating because it's not actually the eagle head, but it's not like it's pretending to be the real eagle head either, because the real eagle head is unavoidably right there. So it's just kind of a case where it's like, I guess, similar to Airazor's head, which I'll show off in a bit, like, Airazor's head kind of has some like birdie beaky detail on it, even though even in the show the chest, her chest is the what's the word I'm looking for? What does she turn into? Hawk, falcon, whichever. The bird head is her chest in robot mode, so it's sort of like, it's not actually meant to be that. She's just got some animal-like details. And I guess you could say the same for him, even though the original toy, the eagle head, literally did end up there. Whatever. It's a nice head sculpt otherwise, though, aside from it being weird that there's kind of like two eagle heads there. But, if you're willing to accept that it's not actually the eagle mode head, the eagle mode head, and that this is actually the eagle mode head, which it is, and that this is just like, I don't know, a neat design to look like an eagle because he's eagle themed, then it's whatever you want, really. But there's a few different things I like to do with this robot mode to make him look a little bit different, from Airazor, and a little bit more like, the actual character model. Now with the feet, the original toy did have the feet like this, with the heels pointed forward as the toes. But in the Beast Wars the Second cartoon, the feet were like this. So really, either way works. Either way makes sense with the the history of this character. Personally, I choose to do this because, like, they've got the nice painted detail there, so it's nice to show that off. And it makes it a little bit different from what I choose to do with Airazor. He also didn't really have shoulder pads, so I personally choose to fold these down. He didn't have anything on the arms. I mean, he didn't have anything, like, he didn't have any form of this weapon, so you could just take him and put him off to the side. But personally, like, I just choose to put these down here like this, just to, again, differentiate the way he looks from Airazor a little bit. Put them both the same way, though. I do it like that because, when they're face down like that, then the fins here don't get in the way of the arms. And then with the wings, I personally choose to not compress them like that and have them, folded most of the way out, not all the way out. I mean, if you're being really accurate to the old toy, then you'd have the wings just like straight out, because like that's kind of how it was. But, I prefer at least having it be a little bit more subtle and just have it be like that. So, I don't know. That's personally how I choose to display him, to make him a little bit different from Airazor. In some ways, a little bit more like the toy design, and a little bit more like the cartoon design. If you really wanted to be accurate to the cartoon, I guess you would have his wings kind of pointed straight back, is sort of how his wings were, at least from the images that I've seen of the design. I haven't really watched Beast Wars the Second. But, on my list, might get to it eventually. I have a hard time keeping up with subbed anime just because I don't read particularly fast, so it means I have to pause it a lot, which is kind of annoying, but I'll get to that one eventually. But yeah, either way, that's how I choose to display him. But you've got those options in there baked in, so really whatever you think looks the best. Here he is again with Airazor, just so you can see, those differences there and how you can display them, and the differences in the head sculpt, obviously. You can see what I'm talking about here, whereas, like, she's kind of got a beak over her head and feathers, and I don't think it was ever the design intent to imply that she grew a second bird head for for robot mode. But she's just kind of got birdie detail, similar to like Cheetor and Tigatron don't need to have sort of cat faces in robot mode. Rat Trap doesn't need to have mouse buck teeth or anything like that. It's just kind of being kind of similar to the animals that they turn into. So you could say the same thing for him, even though with the origins of this character, it is supposed to be like that's where the eagle mode head comes up. But, whatever. That's really kind of getting down to the weeds about whether or not you care about like cheating in general with Transformers, which is a big thing for me, as you may know if you've watched this channel. But for everyone, that's not going to bother them. And then here he is again with Sideswipe, just so you can see what they look like together. Again, I mean, I guess they look good together. They're just, they're just from two different worlds, which I guess is the whole point of the battle across time theme, which is sort of like the theme is like, hey, we're going to give you two things from two totally different areas, and you're going to want one of them and not the other one, probably. And like I'm sure there's lots of people, and myself included, who do want both of these guys, but feels a little scummy in some sense to give you two characters that have nothing to do with each other, somewhat intentionally, so that you're going to end up having to buy something that you don't want. I don't know. And then there's a whole discussion about it being an Amazon exclusive too. I personally try to not buy from Amazon when I have the option. I do buy the exclusive figures from Amazon if I want them. I'm not like above that or anything, but if I have the choice, I usually try to avoid it because Amazon is just kind of a bad company. But, that's neither here nor there for this figure. But yeah, he's a good figure overall. I was, pretty, like dry on him, I guess, when I ordered the set. I really did get it more for Sideswipe, but I'm glad that I have him. I'm kind of hoping at some point that they try to do, some versions of the other two characters of the Magnaboss team. I mean, obviously they probably won't be able to combine or anything because this is using a mold that was not meant to combine, and if they did either of those characters, they'd probably use existing molds as well. So but it'd be cool to have at least the whole team. I could definitely see them doing like a very heavy retool of the Rhinox mold to maybe do Ironhide / Santon, the elephant, and like I guess, for lack of a better option, you could do yet another use of the Cheetor mold to do Prowl / Lio Jr., the lion. Like, again, you'd have to retool that a bit to make the main work, but I think it's possible. Just some of the parts would end up on slightly different spots than the original character, but, that's also the case with him, since he's not supposed to have an eagle mode head on his chest, but I don't know. I think it'd be cool. Either way, I do end up liking this set ultimately. Like I do, at least, it's only two figures, and I do like both of them rather than being like, oh, four figures and you want half of them or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. It all, of course, comes down to personal preference. I definitely enjoy both these figures. They both feel good. Like they don't feel like they're, like have a lot of mold degradation or anything like that. Like they feel just as good as the original uses of their mold, which is nice. And I do like his head sculpt there. Oh gosh, there's a car honking outside. I always talk about stuff that I can hear outside because it's very loud to me. And then whenever I'm editing the videos, I like can't hear it at all. So I don't know if you heard that, but anyway, that's enough rambling out of me for tonight. Here is Maximal SKYWARP. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Kingdom Battle Across Time Maximal SKYWARP.